The growing cold was the only thing that needed to be prepared for, but that would later turn out to be the least of Sanctuary's worries. Well, I will get to that. The coal supply was slowly building a surplus, although more would clearly be needed, as there would be too many tents to improve into additional housing. Well, better housing, to be more precise. At least within one day. But at least a fourth workshop would increase the amount of research done. And the leader of the city of Sanctuary, she understood that improved improved steel works would be a good idea for when there would be an opening for new research. And that's what she did. She ordered steam steelworks to be developed, which would increase the amount of steel. And one of the scout parties had found a snowcat beyond repair, although the steel and steam cores were most welcome. The landing site was the next place to visit for that scout party. As for the next... Sorry. Had to pick up a document or two. The next scout party... that would be later. And it was at this point that some forward thinking was undertaken. Although guard stations were completed. Then she signed a law on a patrol. Something to raise hope and to decrease discontent. Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? At this point, bunkhouses were considered. At the canning workshop, which was long abandoned, steel and food, both raw and prepared, were found. Well, she couldn't afford to leave anything that the people of her city could use. And with the steam steelworks completed, research on the bunkhouses started. Although it did require the delaying of a hunter's hangar being created from a hunter's hut.
Rest time. Work is done for the day.
As for the upgrading of the steelworks to a steam steelworks, in both cases, it was considered advisable to wait until the next work shift before making that upgrade, to make sure that there was no drop in productivity. In the meantime, another steam hub was built to bridge the gap between one and another, and also to allow for an additional resource depot to be built near the coal thumper to the west of the generator. And at this point, well, it was only a matter of time before the Lords arrived. last conflict. Yes. A little more than a day away from Sanctuary. Time would tell how she would deal with them. But in the meantime, there was work to do, and also preparations to be made. Oh yes. She decided to have accommodation made for all those who would arrive. She would need to deal with them quite carefully. $100 at once. That was certainly quite a few to prepare for, but it was certainly possible to accommodate for all of them. Although it did require additional infrastructure, as more food would be needed, along with storage facilities. Well, she had done well managing Sanctuary so far. We shall see how she deals with this conflict once we get to that point in the narrative. As for gathering coal, there was still the problem of the northern coal thumper. It had been woefully underutilized. Something that would need to be remedied quite soon. So that more coal could be gathered, and there'd be less of a likelihood of the people freezing to death. The drunk was causing trouble during the night. And she had a similar attitude to me towards this drunk. let them sober up. There were a few screaming that they were doomed, that they would either throw them out of Sanctuary or make them slaves as they were before. Well, at this point it was too early to tell either way. As for the outpost demo, that was possible to research, although she had different priorities at this point. As for the scout parties, both were quite close to their next destination. At the research outpost, it had clearly been long abandoned, although there were some steam cores and coal to find. And at this point, that scout party was recalled to Sanctuary. The supplies needed. Most dearly, considering, well, all the steam cores had run out and at least one of them could be useful. As for the landing site, that was puzzling for that scout party, but some wood was found. The icebound hulks. Yes. The ships that brought them to Sanctuary in the first place.
Come on, lads. We must work harder.
The Lords were coming to Sanctuary, but there was still time to prepare for them. And some supplies were arriving, and they would get there on day 16. there were some unarmed people who wanted to warn her about the Lords, how they'd do anything to get back at them for not dying. A friendly warning? Well, she hoped so. As for places to put a gathering post, in fact 3 more of them, well, that was problematic. Largely because there was no space to put them, which meant that tents would need to be taken apart and rebuilt elsewhere. Well, if there's no space nearby, it'd best be moved somewhere else. And with the bunkhouse completed, well, the research for it anyway, something else needed to be developed. The steam coal thumper. As there was a need for an additional coal production capability. Although, like with the steel production capability, it would need to be done sometime after the work shift, to minimize coal supply disruption. Yes, coal supply disruption. If there is a better way of putting it, I can't think of any. As for resource depots, more needed to be built. Ah yes, a toy dog to the guard at the guard station. How touching. Something similar happened in our city. Well, there are certainly some workers spare. So that building work could take place. Although with other things, well, it would appear that There was so much coal being gathered. It was unclear what to do with it all. As for the scout parties, one was nearing Sanctuary, and the other was nearing the icebound hulks to see if anything could be salvaged. A scout party returned with bountiful supplies. After that, they were sent to Hanged Man Hill. As for the other scout party, they were able to salvage some steel. Not a lot, but it all helps, and the ocean liner, well, the one in the distance was worth looking into. And with the steam coal thumper developed. Why did I get those two confused? The mechanical calculators could be developed so that more advanced technologies could be researched after that. With the end of a work shift, the coal thumpers were improved. Well, it was easier to improve existing ones than to build a completely new one. Saves a little on resources. Although, one thing that would be needed for consideration is something to deal with growing cold that would be approaching. As for how to deal with a lack of gathering posts around one of the coal thumpers, specifically the one to the north, reallocate the accommodation to other places with heat. And then have a gathering post built where it was. improvements in storage capacity might be in order, especially as the amount coming in would soon be much more than going out. The people continue to grow nervous. Nervous of how close the Lords were getting. What they would do when they got here, or rather got there. Sorry, I was imagining things from their perspective. Society in old London. Indeed, for much of the territory occupied by Britain. It was woefully unfair. Like with my city, she wanted to make something different, although, in her case, she was forced to make one or two concessions to that. Well, at least for the immediate future. Although there was one thing that was certain about the situation that would develop. The Lords would not receive a warm welcome to Sanctuary by those that would have been left to die. Well, there was no getting around that, was there? As for what to do next in this oval of available living space for Sanctuary, there was something that could be done, although it would require more resources. And that would need to wait until the next day. Yes. She was planning ahead for what needed to be done. Because The cold of Frostland would not wait for anyone. Not her, not the people she was responsible for, not the lords, anyone. She was considering building a prison, although she had other priorities to focus on at that point. The temperature lowered, and the people were freezing once more. Not to the point of frostbite, but that would need to be remedied quite soon, before the people grew discontented. And what of the lords? How will they react when they inevitably